Good day, everybody. My name is Javel Barrett, and welcome to ProCast. This is a podcast hosted by the Office of Public Procurement Policy at the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service. Today, we're talking about a topic that affects every single Jamaican: how public money is spent and how procurement is monitored and institutions work together to coordinate the oversight of the spending of government money. Joining us today is Mr. Kevon Stephenson. He hails from the parish of Manchester. Mr. Stephenson was appointed as the Director of Investigations at the Integrity Commission by His Excellency the Governor General on May 18, 2020. Prior to this, he served as the Director of Evaluations and Standards at the Independent Commission of Investigations. During his tenure, he contributed significantly to the development of criminal investigation policies, training, and the establishment of a performance-based culture within the organization. He received his tertiary education at the University of Technology in Jamaica, where he pursued a Bachelor of Science degree in Urban and Regional Planning. He also attended the University of London, United Kingdom, where he earned a Bachelor's of Laws degree. In 2014, he was one of 4 Commonwealth scholars from Jamaica studying in the United Kingdom. This opportunity allowed him to complete a Master's of Science degree in Crime, Science, Investigation, and Intelligence at the University of Portsmouth in the United Kingdom. He also holds several postgraduate certificates and is an alumnus of the Norman Manley Law School, where he attained his legal education certificate. He is also called to the Jamaican bar, which qualifies him to practice as an attorney at the several courts in Jamaica. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Stephenson.
Welcome.
A lot of Jamaicans hear about procurement oversight and think it's something far removed from their daily lives. Why does procurement oversight matter to everyday Jamaicans?
Well, thank you very much for having me today on your podcast, and I congratulate you on the initiative. Yes. I think it's important to get information across to Jamaicans. I'm coming to your question in a second, but just before doing so, I just want to indicate that at the Integrity Commission, a significant part of what we do is the monitoring of public procurement and prescribed licenses. Just before coming here, I made a check up to the last financial year. And on the system, we monitor about 190 public bodies, could be more. In our quarterly contract awards system, where public officials or heads of public entities are required to submit reports of their procurement activities every quarter for all contracts of a value $500,000 or more. In that system, we had over 140,000 instances of government contract of a value cumulatively of over 1.2 trillion Jamaican dollars.
Wow. Yes.
So it's a significant portfolio, and we're only looking at monitoring government contracts of about 1,500 per year.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why is oversight important? What it is? What is it? No, procurement oversight is really a mechanism which allows the government, the society, to have an insight into the process for awarding government contracts and to see whether that process is fit for purpose, yes, as well as whether there are any improprieties or irregularities in the award of government contract. It's important because, as you've indicated before, and people are interested in how taxpayers' monies are spent. And so you want to ensure that the money is being spent in a way that the taxpayers are getting value for money, and of course that things are being done above board, and that there is an equal opportunity for all contractors to be awarded contracts. So that's why it's important.
Thank you very much for that, and I completely agree with you. Now, I mean, you've mentioned the number of contracts that you monitor. And we know from time to time we hear of the Integrity Commission publishing investigative reports where there are negative findings, but we never really hear about the situations where you monitor and you investigate and there are no negative findings. Everything is above board. From the number of investigations you've done or the number of contracts that you've monitored, about what percentage would you say result in reports with negative findings?
An interesting inquiry there. Now, perhaps the reason that the Commission does not publish instances where there's no impropriety in terms of our investigations is that the law does not require that that is done. In fact, the law requires that those matters are terminated and the findings are presented to the commissioners. Now, just to give you an insight in terms of volume, in terms of complaints, etc., you are looking at approximately 10 to 15% of all complaints made to the Commission in respect of procurement irregularities that actually get to the investigation stage. Now, when a complaint is made to the Commission about impropriety regarding anything, inclusive of procurement irregularities, it comes to the Director of Information and Complaints. The Director of Information Complaints assesses the complaint to see whether or not it's something that should be referred on to another director. At the end of that process, let us say that it is something to be referred on for investigation. It comes to me. And the law requires that an assessment is made to determine whether it's one that really is in the remit of the Commission or whether it is frivolous and vexatious, and whether another entity is dealing with that matter. If we are satisfied that the matter is one that should be investigated because it passed the test, then we move on to investigation. For all the matters coming through, as indicated earlier, we only have about 10 to 15% of those matters going through that funnel towards investigation. Now, another important point to make is that although we have a limited number of matters progressing to the investigation stage, we have a portfolio in investigation division that is split in two. On one hand, you have the monitoring function, and then on the other hand, there is the investigation function.
Okay.
On the monitoring side is where we make a significant impact in terms of our oversight of procurement, because by the time you get to investigation, the horse has already gone through the gate. Right. But we have an opportunity on the monitoring side, and as I said earlier, we looked at about 1,500 contracts last year, and generally that's the average number of contracts we look at. And we take these contracts from this stage where they are advertised. Right. And we carry them straight through to delivery of services or the completion of works, etc., and handover. And what we do along that process is to inquire into the process, request information, assess documents, and provide feedback to the public bodies. Now, it's important too to also note that the Integrity Commission does not give instructions about decision making in respect of procurement. What we do is that we caution, we warn, we advise. And I must say here that I must commend most of the public bodies when we go through that process of identifying little issues here and there that, if they progress, could result in a breach. They are more than happy, most of them, in most instances, to take on board our recommendations and to sometimes issue addenda to correct certain missteps that may have been identified in the process.
You mentioned as one of the checks that you do, you make an assessment as to whether or not it is something that is within the remit of the Commission or whether it's being dealt with by another body. Jamaica has a number of oversight bodies. Of course, you have the Public Procurement Commission, you have the Integrity Commission, you have the Auditor General, and of course, you also have the Office of Public Procurement Policy that does have oversight responsibilities. How do all of these institutions, fit together in the procurement ecosystem to make it work?
Yes. I like to refer to the different entities and the legislation within the framework as the patchwork of public procurement or anti-corruption legislation. Clearly, it is not. There's no one piece of legislation that unifies our response to procurement oversight in Jamaica. On one side, you have the Auditor General's Department that's really looking at financial, auditing to see that there is financial propriety. And they do an aspect of performance audit as well, which is quite useful. There is some overlap, but I'll get to that in a second. Then you have the PPC that deals with the registration of contractors and deals with procurement in terms of giving no objection or approving at a particular threshold level. And then there is the Integrity Commission that provides oversight in terms of the procurement process right across the board. When you put all of those pieces together, you do have distinct functions, but at the same time, there are some areas of overlap. So for example, if the Auditor General identifies procurement irregularities that need to be investigated at the criminal standard, then the Integrity Commission takes this forward. And of course, the PPC, in their review of procurement documents as well and submissions, they may find irregularities which need to be investigated. What I think is important, though, is for there to be some coordination among those entities so that the extent to which they overlap, then that can be capitalized on to ensure that there is no gap in the process and that the flow of information happens seamlessly so that that information is used for a more efficient and effective overarching framework of oversight.
We will get to looking at the ways in which we could plug those gaps in a bit. But I just want to look across the region a little bit. Which countries or regional bodies stand out when it comes to procurement oversight, and what are they doing right?
Well, I must say, as a Jamaican and as a patriotic citizen, I'm very happy to admit that Jamaica is leading on the procurement front in the region. And I say so with this caveat. The research in terms of public procurement theories, etc., I don't think we are leading there. I think Trinidad has a very good research program. But in terms of our framework, the extent to which we have developed them, I think we are way out front. I've had the opportunity to look at the system in Guyana. I've had the opportunity to look at the Grenada system and a few others. And when I compare it to ours, I think we are well out front in terms of the maturity and the comprehensiveness of the system, for want of a better word. There can be improvements, but I think we are doing quite well. And I think we should also improve on the research front because that will help then to make the system more robust and sustainable.
When it comes to areas where Jamaica is doing well compared to the others, I mean, you speak about research as an area where we can improve on. How would that help in terms of procurement?
I say this on the basis that I recognize that particularly the OPPP is leaning towards a system where decisions are informed by data. And research provides this necessary function. So you are not only making decisions in a vacuum, but you are using research to guide that decision making. And I must say to you that I'm very heartened by what I've seen with, and I don't want to take tail out of school, but some of the things that I see, the initiatives that the OPPP has embarked on, I think they're quite commendable. And if they come to fruition, I think Jamaica will be better for it in terms of informing our procurement response in terms of oversight by data and research.
Thank you for that. I know at the OPPP we try our best to move the system forward. We intend to move more towards professionalization of our public procurement practitioners. And so we do hope to move into that general, better place. Now, I'm happy to hear that Jamaica is doing relatively well compared to its regional partners, and still accepting that there are some areas where we can improve, and we will continue to move forward with some of those initiatives. Now, if we should take it back just a little bit to your comment earlier in the conversation, where you spoke about the need for more coordination between the institutions. For the public who will watch this podcast, what would you say, in your experience, does good institutional coordination look like?
Okay, so I want to start from the basics, the people working in the systems. I admit, and happily so, that we have a good framework, very good framework. But for any framework to be effective, you need people operating in that framework who are technically competent, who are people of integrity, and who are willing to communicate and to contribute to a higher purpose for the betterment of the system as a whole, so that the whole is better than the parts. And to say something further on coordination when it comes to people, I think there needs to be measures or mechanisms in place that allow for seamless communication across entities and within entities, because the corruption we have in society, the irregularities, conflict of interest issues, these maladies thrive in a system where there are silos, right? There are secrets, and we lack transparency. If we are to win this war on corruption and so on, we have to ensure that the systems are joined up. We have to have a national consensus, a working group having all the right persons at the table. And it doesn't only include your government entities in terms of the PPC, the Integrity Commission, OPPP. You have to then bring on board your contractors, and other stakeholders in the process, so that there is seamless communication, there is a proper triaging of the issues, and then to develop a response. I think that would be very helpful.
Right. No, I mean, I completely agree with you, and I'm sure as time goes on, the coordination between the entities will get better, and we'll be able to close the gaps that you mentioned earlier. What are some practical, examples of coordination that currently happens between the oversight institutions in Jamaica?
Currently, I can only speak from my understanding at the Integrity Commission. What we have been doing recently is that we have been engaging with stakeholders like the OPPP. We've been meeting, and we have been discussing, and we've been actioning certain recommendations coming from those discussions. We have also been meeting with the PPC, and we currently now have a quarterly meeting of the senior officers of those two entities. We have, from every meeting, there's a list of action items, initiatives to carry forward. One of the things that we are currently actioning, which is, I think, a very practical step towards increasing this or improving upon the coordination, is to make it so that the Integrity Commission can share information with the OPPP, for example, the PPC. Currently, as the law is, the Integrity Commission cannot share information with entities that are not competent authorities, which the OPPP and the PPC are not. But those entities can share information, but we capture a significant amount of information, which I think would be of value in terms of informing your own policy development for public procurement in Jamaica, and would inform the PPC in carrying out its function as well. And so it would be important for us to be able to share that information on with them towards creating a more cohesive and effective system.
Right. You mentioned this issue of competent authority. What is it, and what will it take for entities like the PPC to be a competent authority, to allow you to share with them?
Yes, very, very important question that you asked, because I really should have prefaced with that. The competent authority status is really a legal coinage in the statute that designates certain entities. Under Section 7 of the Integrity Commission Act, it designates certain entities, maybe about 8 or 9 of them, as competent authorities, which the Integrity Commission will be able to share information with for the purpose of carrying out their roles and functions. And in terms of how an entity can become a competent authority, there's a power given to the minister to designate other entities who were not identified at the time of the drafting of the legislation, to designate those entities competent authorities. So that is something that, so there has to be a mutual agreement between the two entities that, one, the Integrity Commission wants that entity to become a competent authority, and the other entity wants to become a competent authority. That is then, cascaded to the Cabinet Office, and then the usual process of making that happen then moves forward.
Okay. And have we taken any steps towards achieving that?
Yes, we have started the process. So we await the outcome of that process. And just very happy to say that the OPP has expressed its interest in becoming a competent authority, and so has the PPC. So we are really progressing in a very positive way on that front.
Right. So, I mean, if we, look globally, are there any global innovations in procurement oversight that excites you? Things that Jamaica could realistically implement within the next few years?
I must admit that I'm not very au fait with all that's happening out there.
Right.
But recently I engaged in a discussion where I was told of oversight, technology being used to provide oversight. So, a technological tool is developed, and that tool allows for algorithms and so on to be able to identify risks, and then having identified the risk and certain entities that are prone to corruption and other irregularities, then you can then hone in on those and provide an appropriate response. AI is emerging. I mean, I had a discussion with somebody just yesterday about AI and how it can aid in oversight and monitoring. I think it's something that would have to be fleshed out in terms of how it operates, and of course regulations need to be in place in order to govern how it can be employed. But I think where we are now, we have to rely more heavily on the use of technology to perform this very mammoth task, because you're looking at thousands of contracts on an annual basis. There is no institution or organization in Jamaica with enough staff to be able to physically go through those. And you're thinking about things like identifying trends. With our own human eyes, it's very difficult to appreciate big data. So we need technology to help us to identify trends and make linkages and so on. So I think technology, the use of AI and so on, is where we need to head.
Now, I mean, if we try to tie things together that we've discussed so far, you've said to us that I guess a small percentage of complaints that you get, 10%, actually makes it to the investigative stage, and then I would say perhaps it's only then another small percentage of that small percentage that actually makes its way into a report. I mean, if you should say to Jamaicans who will watch, who want to participate in the procurement process, but they feel as though it's not fair, they won't get a fair shake, what would you say to them?
I'd say that the procurement generally is a huge opportunity for Jamaicans who are entrepreneurs and who want to earn an honest living from a large amount of available resources. It's also resources that many of them have contributed to themselves, being taxpayers' money. The procurement process, I would regard it as robust. What we have to contend with now is really compliance, both from the entity's standpoint and also from the contractor's standpoint. To my mind, and based on what I've outlined to you, I think most procurement undertakings are carried out devoid of irregularities. And so I think there is a fair opportunity for contractors to bid and successfully engage the process by being awarded a contract. So I would encourage them to participate in the procurement process. This participation, wide participation, is in the long run going to assist the country in achieving the sort of innovation that we need, because public procurement, the competition that is involved in public procurement, is supposed to improve competition. And in improving competition, you then have better quality products, goods, services that can be offered at a cheaper rate. Right? So the aim is really that we should increase competition so that there is innovation, and in the end, there is value for money. I'm also going to say to those persons that there are several entities who are involved in the business of oversight. The OPPP, the PPC, and the Integrity Commission. The Auditor General's office is also there. And as long as we can identify issues in the process, we will do the necessaries. We'll use the resources that we have at our disposal to monitor, and where necessary, investigate. I want to also say to them that never mind the small number of investigation reports that they've seen in relation to procurement, we have a very robust monitoring system. And in terms of the matters that we have monitored, in most of those matters, we were able to say to the heads of entity, well done. You have conducted a successful procurement exercise. We may identify in some cases small issues that would not rise to commissioning an investigation. But we say in future, we would like for you to pay attention to these things. And I must say that these procurement exercises happen in that way because along the way we are giving guidance. And where we can't provide the guidance, we look to the OPPP or the PPC. And the entities, most of them have been taking on board the guidance, and they have been able to complete successful procurement exercises.
Right. And while we are on the role of, talking to the regular Jamaican citizen, what role can they play in ensuring that the system works and that we're able to achieve, value for money?
Besides participating in the process which would cause then competition to increase, I would say to them, do not attempt to bribe or to otherwise influence a public officer in the performance of their duty as it relates to procurement. And if you identify any such instances, report it to the relevant authorities. The Integrity Commission is here. Come to the Integrity Commission. You can call in, you can send an email to the Integrity Commission, and we will appreciate the complaint. I am sure that there is also a mechanism under the Public Procurement Act where you can make a complaint to the public body itself, and you can also make a complaint to a special board, right, which will then review that complaint and to take the necessary actions. So I would say that taking advantage of those opportunities and facilities would enable us to have then a more robust and efficient and effective procurement system.
So, Kevon, what I'm hearing from this conversation is that, oversight really protects the public's money it increases transparency, it increases competition, which again loops back to achieving value for money. And when we look across the region, Jamaica is doing relatively well. There are areas for improvements, but work is being done to enhance the coordination between the entities, to be more effective and to be more robust in the oversight responsibilities. And in all of this, the citizens also play a key role. They need to participate, take advantage of the billions of dollars that are being spent by government. And where you see, issues, you can call into the Integrity Commission, you can make a complaint, and it will be looked at to determine whether or not there is a case to move forward to investigation. And where there is, it ends up in a report. Now, Kevon, I want to thank you very much for this very enlightening conversation. And I do hope that, the Jamaicans who will listen will be able to benefit from what we've discussed, the role of oversight and how it helps. Ultimately, I'm excited for the possibility of improving the coordination between your entity and ours, as well as your entity and others in the system, so that as much as we've made progress in reducing corruption in Jamaica, we can make more. So thank you very much for coming, and I really enjoyed the conversation. I wish we had more time to continue.
The pleasure is mine.
Yes.